Good morning, this is Howie. I'm here to help you win with money. This is what I do. I love teaching finances. And I'm going to start a new series, which I'm going to call Expose Using Math. And here is a topic, something we call taxing seed versus taxing the harvest. In the finance industry, it's better known as pre-tax versus post-tax. Which tax would you rather pay? Today we're going to expose it using math and you decide what's the best way. Let's watch this really short video.
Retirement plans to save on income taxes and grow their retirement fund, it's highly possible they'll pay more in taxes at retirement than they've saved. Here's an example. Say you buy some seeds at a local feed store, and when you go to pay, the clerk says, "Would you like to pay tax on the seed now and get the harvest tax-free, or get the seed tax-free and pay tax on the harvest?" Wouldn't you rather pay tax on the seed and get the harvest tax-free? But that's just the opposite of how qualified or regulated retirement plans work. Regulated retirement plans give you a tax break on the funds you contribute, or the seed. But when you retire, Uncle Sam arrives with a wheelbarrow to collect his taxes on your harvest. So if you put $5,000 per year at a 20% tax bracket into a qualified plan, you end up saving $30,000 in 30 years. Let's say after 30 years, your account equals over $1 million. You retire and decide to take $75,000 a year as income, the harvest. If you're retired for only 20 years, you'll end up paying over $300,000 in income taxes. You saved $30,000 to pay out $300,000. In other words, you're paying tax on the harvest. Let us help you keep more of your harvest tax-free when you retire. Call or visit our website today.
Let's go and show this math to you. Okay, let's start with my trusty spreadsheet. I'm going to use formulas. We're going to plug it in here. Okay, starting seed. I'm going to write this as a math formula, but it's really A, B, and C. 3 different variables. B may be the function of compounding interest. So we'll just use some numbers like whatever, right? Doesn't really matter. And some type of tax rate. Okay, I fixed the formula so you can see what it does, right? So when you copy the paste, it works. And if you notice the difference, okay, so in order to prove this, let me show you something real quick. We're going to change the parentheses. And then I'm going to copy this down, okay? So look at the formulas underneath. Wow, the numbers are the same. Why is that? So I'm going to explain this using the most simplest math possible before we get into a much more complex answer. So when you look at what this is, when I look this up, you will see that some 3rd grade math book teaches this concept called associative property of multiplication. And whether you learn it in 3rd, 4th, or even 5th grade, this is what this is. This math problem is not something that should be really complex. Maybe the adults complicate it by using the, it's compounded over X amount of years, and because your salary or your seed is different each year, maybe that's why we cannot figure it out. But really, this should be a simple math problem. Again, go Google it, find what this means, but this is the demonstration of that. I used the formula 2 different ways with the parentheses. The answers come up the same no matter what, okay? So let's get into some deeper math for those who really want to know more. Here's my next spreadsheet. So in the video, what they were trying to explain was, do you want to pay tax on a small amount or a large amount? And they use this numbers. Hey, 30,000, or do you want to pay tax on 300,000 or give up 300,000 on the $1 million, right? So they were trying to simplify it. So here, let me try to explain what's going on. I will create a spreadsheet here, and I'm going to show you some of the formulas. but I have built it so that it is easy to use. Look, all the numbers change, right? You change the percentage, voila. You want to change the tax rate, 18%, voila. Okay? You want to add state tax, maybe your state has 8%, voila. But for right now, we're only using this to prove a point. So let's put this back to the numbers that they use in the video. I'm going to show you what this means. We're going to use 11% because it gets us close to $1 million. You see, you invest $5,000 in her video, you have some type of return rate. Your interest return rate, it's a function. You see, everything's a formula. Here's how much your end value, and then if you do this for 30 years, it's just a formula being multiplied and it captures the answer. Okay? On this side, we're using the same inputs, so there's no funny math here. Tax remove, actual amount that you're going to invest. Okay? All formulas. Same return rate, how much interest you're earning, and you see is less, and your total year-end value. So the concept is, this is your Roth, okay? And this is a standard 401k plan. And so here's the final balances. You see this big $1 million here. We're gonna make that really big so everybody sees what we're looking at, boom, boom. And here's the other side of it, okay? And so in this video, they're saying, look, 401k plan, you got to pay a whopping tax on this. So let's figure out the math. Let's just type it in. Right? I already have some formulas to help me out to show you what this means. Right? J3 plus J4. And this will be the result of L38 minus, and there you go. So I want to call you to look at something really important here. Look at this. This is the amount of tax that you will be paying if you took this $1 million out, right, using that 20%. And so that's the original argument. Why would you pay tax and give $200,000 to someone if you can pay $30,000 using a Roth? And that's the argument. And this is really not a fair comparison because it's wrong. And I'm exposing it using math. If you subtract this tax from this million, look at this value. And if you follow my mouse, look at this value. They're the same. Dun, dun, dun. I wonder why. I wonder why. So when you keep all the variables the same, the math still works out. Whether you want to use a simple mathematical model, as I did in sheet 1, right here, it works. Or if you wanted to look at a more complex sheet using true compounding, and you can use a spreadsheet, use formula, the math still works out the same. But there's more. There's more to this. And I'm going to show you a couple other reasons why this is really not a good way to think about this. So when all things being equal, the math is the same. But there's going to be some arguments on both sides by saying, well, you didn't factor this or that in, and therefore you're still wrong. So let's talk about some of these factors. Let's start with the first variable. You pay taxes into the system. You hope to make it to retirement, and when you do, then you can enjoy your money tax-free. That's their argument, okay? The first thing I want to introduce is a really simple one. If you pay taxes up front, in this case, using a Roth, there's no way for you to get your money back. Do you understand what I just said? If you pay your tax this year, then next year you pay more tax because you're trying to save money for investing in the future. What if you died? So now we'll look at the Social Security life tables. Really what I care about is the exact age, probability of death, life expectancy. I'm just going to scroll all the way to 59, okay? And what this shows you is, this is like how many people will be alive per 100,000. And what that means is a little bit under 13,000 people will have died. Okay, so what I did was did the math. It's a like table, 86%, right, chance of the population, or 86% of the population will make it to about 659, because I wanted to show you that if that's how many people are living out of every 100,000, I'm using simple numbers. I know that the US has way more than 300 million people, but for simplicity's sake, I just took this, multiplied the numbers. You see the percentage is the same. What that means is 41 million people will not make it to retirement, or at least 59, right? I'm just using 59. Again, whether you do early retirement or using 65 or 67, I'm not here to argue that. What that means is this: while you're working, using this taxing the seed or harvest, you're paying your taxes in year one or the first year, whatever age you are. You gave it to the government, you gave it to the government, you gave this to the government, and then you died. Dun, dun, dun. Right? So you died. But your tax is already gone. The government took the money. And based on the math, this is not like an anomaly. It's not an outlier. It's not, oh, it's only 1% of the population or a fraction of a percent. This is pretty huge. So I wanted to show that first. The next argument generally goes back to, well, we always know taxes will always be increased. And that's the argument. Okay, so let's do a quick Google search. Let's figure out you will always be in a higher tax bracket. Hey, look at this. Top federal tax rates. Of course, if you're listening to me and you're over here, right? Sure. If you were paying taxes in 1928, 29, and then you're paying taxes here, it's higher. But look, most of us were paying taxes somewhere over here or here. Maybe some of us are here, right? All of us were paying taxes here. Is it always higher? So you can see tax rates actually been coming down. So whether or not taxes go up or down, again, no one knows the future, but I bet you it is marginal. That argument does not make sense, that you will always be in a higher tax rate when you retire. So let me explain this in another way. If you're making $40,000, let's say average for your whole life, are you then going to suddenly retire and withdraw $100,000 to live? That doesn't make sense. Why? One is, assuming you have a big enough nest egg, that's almost mathematically impossible. Most people are accustomed to, if you're in the $40,000 or $50,000 lifestyle, you're going to be accustomed to living off less because you were saving money, so you didn't have access to your full salary, because one is you're paying taxes up front, federal taxes, and then your 401k plan or whatever you were doing, you were paying taxes, right? And so you're living off of less than 100% of your income. If you were making $100,000, same concept. You don't suddenly retire and say, well, I got $100 million saved, because we know that's not possible. And then you're going to live off of $400,000 and you'll be in a higher tax rate. In fact, most people could live off of 70 or 80% of their income. And I'm not saying that's right, the right or magic number or the line in the sand. But we know that if you're paying 20 or 30 or 40% while you're earning this income, most of us could live off of 80% of our salary. So that argument is really a bad argument. But there's more. Don't go yet. Let me get to some of the other gold nuggets. Here's a website to state income tax. Look at this. Some states have zero income tax. But if you're currently working in a big state that charges you an income tax, 13% in California, New York look like is 8%. New York City may be a little bit different because you have an extra local on top of that. New Jersey is 10%. Minnesota is 9%. So what does this mean? back to the original chart. Paying taxes here, right? You got to plug in the numbers. Do you want to give up the taxes up front? That's really the question, right? If you give this money away up front while you're living in one of these expensive states, there's no way to recapture that money back. But if you retire, who said you have to retire in California? You can always move to a state with no tax or lower tax. So this concept of you can't control your tax rate at retirement or close to retirement, it's really a bad one. But there's more. And you ready for this? Even if you understand this answer, where both numbers are the same, I want to ask you this question. When you do your taxes, do you know what type of tax system we live under? Progressive. For those who don't know what that means, we'll do a quick recap. Let's go to a website. Bing boom, here you go. Federal tax income brackets. What does this mean? Okay, in my example, right, you're paying taxes. This tax rate that you're paying in your Roth when you're as you pay as you go is your marginal tax rate. What that means is you're saving money off of your top bracket or your every last dollar that you put in. Okay? And you're doing that over the years. So obviously when you're 25 years old, you know, you're in a lower tax rate. As you get into your 40s and 50s, maybe your peak earning years, you may be in a higher tax rate, 30% or higher. And so by paying taxes on that money, you're paying taxes on a higher marginal tax rate. Whereas here, it removes that dollar. That dollar is not being taxed, or in this case, $5,000 a year is being removed off of your marginal tax rate. You're not paying tax on it because in theory, what you're trying to say is we'll pay it at the end when you're retired. And this is what they all understand. But what they don't understand is this argument. You ready? When you retire, most of us will not have a part-time job, right? If you're using this argument of, well, that's the whole concept of retirement. You don't want to pay tax on this $1 million, right? That's the argument, right? Oh, don't pay tax on this because you're paying $200,000. First of all, we never withdraw all lump sum. Who does that? Which means your retirement is 1 year and you're done with. That is doo-doo or really bad thinking. What you do is you figure out how much you can pull out and what you need. And what most people try to do is make this number last for 25 years or so, right? Based on life expectancy. So what that means is if you divide this number by 26 years, I think RMD is roughly 26 point something years, right? You're not withdrawing $100,000 a year. You may be withdrawing $40,000. And if you know anything about tax system, you're not paying, right? If you're pulling out $40,000 for a married couple, look at this. You're going to be in this tax rate. And what that means is, doesn't mean that you're paying 12% of all your money you're pulling out, because the first 19 is taxed at a lower rate. And so let's go back to this argument then. Even if you are in a high tax bracket for your working life, let's suppose you are blessed and you're in this tax bracket, the 24% one, right? As a single man, maybe you're making 120 grand. As a family, you're pulling in 250 grand. And so you're paying a really good tax rate. Okay, but now when you retire, if you pull out, let's say 120 grand as a single, or maybe, you know, now in this case it's going to be hard, right? You're not going to pull out 250 grand, but let's say you pull out 120. Well, as a single, you're in the 24 bracket even when you retire, but your effective tax rate is what? It's the weighted average up to that 120, right? Which may be, it may put you somewhere around 15% or whatever the math is. And same thing with the married couple. So that argument, again, is these experts are wrong. And in that video, you saw these are registered financial advisors who steer people the wrong way. Either they work for the government, or there's a giant conspiracy for everybody to pay their taxes up front, and you may not even reap the benefits. Now, am I saying Roth is bad? Absolutely not. Do I have a Roth? Absolutely. But I hedge. I don't put 90% or 100% of my net worth into this Roth. What you should do is, what most people do is, you put money away in a 401k plan, right? You can reap most of the tax sheltering. A lot of this is exempt from your state taxes. I mean, depending on who wins the presidency, but you can still shelter multiple millions of dollars tax-free. And if you worry about that, we can cover that in another video. You can gift money away to reduce your taxable liabilities, but that's a different video. In this video, you can see all this is wrong. A lot of people don't understand this. They teach you the wrong thing. The experts teach you the wrong thing, and the math works. Do not be hoodwinked by some financial gurus or your tax advisor or some of these investment advisors who really only want to earn their commission, but they don't even teach you the basic math of how this really works. Again, there's a lot of other variables. Can't get into them all. There are ways to think through this from an estate planning. There's a way to think through this from a strategy standpoint so you maximize your money. Purpose of my channel is to help you win with money. You can't do it if you believe what everybody else teaches. Taxing the seed versus taxing the harvest is also taught in a lot of churches or a lot of biblical finance courses, and sometimes they're still wrong. Show me the math and explain it. And in this case, I think I made a really good case of many different reasons why, if you go all in with a Roth, it's really a bad idea. Am I saying that there's no good reasons to use a Roth? No. There's definitely some benefits to the Roth, right? You can still earn money past age 70. There is no RDM. There's other reasons why you want to use it. You can take your money back out anytime. Again, this video is not about let's create a Roth and what the benefits are. This video is about, from a tax point of view, what they teach is not accurate. And we're here to teach you the truth. You do the math, you figure it out. I'm here to help you win with money. As always, if you like my video, please like, subscribe. I'm going to create a lot more of these expose with math videos so that you can decide what's best for you. And hopefully you can accumulate one more dollar, invest, build for your future, build wealth. I want to get you into the 2 Comma Club. For those who don't know, that's the Millionaires Club. I'm going to help you get there if you listen, if you learn, and if you apply these principles. Hope you have a good day.